Hello, my name is Bradley and I'm your host of The Internal Game. So why is it so difficult to stick with an assumption, right? Why is it so difficult to say, hey, I'm bossing up, taking my life to another level, right? And then just staying there. Why is it so difficult to find out that like, hey, I'm God. I'm creator of my reality. Oh, snap. Like, this should be easy. What seems to be my problem? How come I can't figure this out? Is there something wrong with me? Am I doing something wrong? Why is this so difficult? Right? Why is it so difficult to find out about something that says, hey, you create your reality, now do it? You know? Why is it so difficult to do it? Right? Like, why? Well, I've made quite a few videos on this, but truth remains the same. Okay, like, is it a romantic idea to like assume favorably of your person and say, wow, like, yeah, all I gotta do is look at them differently and they're gonna change? Yeah. Is it true? Yes. Okay. Is it a wonderful idea to say, man, if I just change the way I perceive something, that it's gonna change? Yeah. Is it that simple of an idea that like change the way you look at things and the things you look at change? Yes. Right? Tell a new story, and the new story is the true story, right? Is the simplicity of this true? Yes. Is it that simple? Yes. But why is it so difficult? Right? Why is it so difficult? Seems like a simple concept for a complicated mind, or in this case, something's wrong with me, right? Complicated person, right? Anyway, it's because, again, the strongest force in the human psyche and the human personality is its need to stay consistent with how it sees itself. The strongest force in the human psyche and the strongest force in the human personality, they're a bit different, but nonetheless, the strongest force in these components of the mind is its need to stay consistent with how it sees itself. So yes, the romantic of an idea, the romantic idea that, man, I just changed the way I look at this person, and that person changes and reflects me back. And like all I gotta do is view them as this loving, committed person, right? That's a beautiful idea. But if you see yourself as like abandoned or not enough or not worthy or not chosen or not committed to all this stuff, then you are going to sabotage that. Even if the person was showing you commitment and love, I'm sure they probably were. And then to the psyche, to the mind, it just wasn't enough. Like, why is this person doing this? Like, there must be something else. And it'll sabotage it. Same thing with success. If you do not see yourself as successful or as what have you, making a certain amount of money, then you're not going to perceive a situation that way. And it's not as simple as just affirming and persisting. It is for a minute. It is for a minute, maybe even a day, a couple days, until you get too comfortable. And then this psyche that has a strong need to stay consistent with how it sees itself is like, hey, actually, no, we actually aren't chosen. We actually don't get committed to. We actually abandon. You remember those times, especially with this person? Remember when they did this? And then we buy into it. And then we start these cycles over and over again. I'll tell you one thing I used to do, trying to manifest my wife back in the day, was I would go through these cycles of like, okay, I get it. I just watched this video, and every video I watched was like, this is the one. That's the one I needed. That was it. Whoo, got it now. Yeah, right? And then I was like, boss up. I'm bossing up. I got it. She didn't do anything to me. It was just me. She was just like, she's my reflection. She didn't do anything. She couldn't help it. I'm sorry, babe. I was looking at you that way. And I started to feel good, feel confident, bossing up. And then I'd like just be scrolling or something, and I'd see something If I even had to be scrolling, it could just be a thought. But like, let's just say I was scrolling and I saw something that was like, yeah, if they wanted to, they would. Or just so you know, before you take her back, remember that. And it'd say something like kind of outlandish. And I'm like, oh my God, she probably did do that. Why would she do that? Oh God, I hate you. Like, why would she do that? Like, I can't believe she did that. Yeah, I know I created it, but man, her, that's stupid. I can't believe she would do something like that. Why would she do that? I loved her. She said she loved me. And then like, I kind of spiral out. Right? And then like, I'd be upset with her, like resentful. And then like, that would kind of take its course. And then man, I reacted. I should have done that. Well, gotta watch another video. Watch a video. Okay, yeah, got it. That's the one. That's the video. Perfect. Got it now. Boss up. Take my life to a whole another level. Sorry for looking at you like that, babe. I know it was me. Got this. And then again, and 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 again for months. Because I was not used to or had no idea about observing thoughts. Every thought that I got, I believed, or I thought was important. So if you're trying to battle, which I was, like, okay, I'm this person now, and you're assuming this new way of living, this new identity, right? I'm chosen, I'm this, I'm fucking that, all these things that I was trying to say I was just to get my person and live my life. Then I was able to embody it for a second. And then when the thoughts came and I wasn't used to like kind of being aware of the thoughts, I would buy them every single time because the strongest force, human psyche, is this need to stay consistent with how it sees itself. So when you start saying that you were something other than how you have been seeing yourself for probably your whole life, then it's going to feel threatened, even if it's not an ideal belief. It's like, no, actually, we don't do things like that. And it's going to start shooting some evidence, some thoughts, some perceptions about things on why the person's not texting or how long it's been. And you start coming up with stories, and then you're lost in story again. Now you spiral. And then if, like we learned from Neville Goddard and many other teachers, like our reactions let us know what we are identified with. So if we're saying that we're this person now, we're embodying this person, and then we react to just a thought or just a perception, right? Then were we ever really out of this identity in the first place? No. And then we do this for God knows how long. And then we're like, what am I doing wrong? There must be something wrong with me. Why is it so hard? I know I have it. I know there's a version of me that has it. I know it. Like, I get it. I know. But if you don't feel chosen, if you don't feel loved, if you don't feel like someone could love you, if you feel unlovable, if you don't feel like people commit to you and you're always second, or all these different things, it doesn't matter what you intellectually know. And it doesn't matter if you say, oh, I have this, like there's this version of me that has this. You're not like, and if you're buying into these thoughts and these stories after you started to embody that you're this version, then nothing's going to change. Because it doesn't matter what you intellectually know, it matters what you embody. Embodiment is the evidence, not knowing about something. Okay. Now, granted, everything is God, right? The thoughts, emotions, everything is God, right? But when you are identified with mind, which means that you are taking your mind real seriously and believing that you are these thoughts and that, oh my God, believe everything that the mind is coming up with, coming from identity, by the way, then you are not feeling too much like God. Not feeling really anything like that. You're feeling real separate from a lot of things, including this person, including this money, including all of this stuff. Because the mind, identification with mind is separate from. Ego is separate from. I think it was Dr. Wayne Dyer that said ego edging God out. Even though it's all God, but to be identified with mind, which is an egoic mind, you are edging God out. You are not connected to this thing. Even though you are, you will not feel connected to this thing. You are not aware that you are connected to this thing because you are identified with thoughts. So as long as you're identified with thoughts, then the strongest force what's actually happening is you're dealing with this psyche, this personality that you've created for yourself, is need to stay consistent with how it sees itself. So what you're going to want to do is not try to battle with this thing. You're wanting to get in touch with what it is that you actually are, which is presence. Presence doesn't argue with things. Presence is things. Okay? Presence isn't something to be fearful of. I'm not going to get my stuff. No, you're not going to get your stuff because you keep returning to an identity that you never left, number one. And number two, say that you want to get out of. But if you actually really, truly wanted loved, and you actually, truly, really wanted money and these things, you would have them. I promise you this. If you actually wanted these things, you would have them. It's the unconsciousness. It's the way you actually see yourself that's calling these shots. And they're doing it through your perception and the stories that you keep buying into because you keep believing the thoughts coming from the belief system. And so you're like, oh, I learned some stuff. I know I'm this person. I know I'm this reality. I know that I'm already chosen, but you don't. You don't know that, because if you did know that, you would be chosen. You would have them. It would have these things. Because what's actually happening is you want to be not chosen. You want to not have these things. You want to be victim because that's how you see yourself. Now, I'm not trying to ruffle your feathers, but I am trying to give you the truth. So yeah, it's a glorious idea to come in here, and anybody can make a YouTube video these days and say, oh, just change your perception. You're God. Affirm. You're aware of what you don't have. These are stories. Like, it's true. Right? But if it's that easy, why are you not doing it? If it's that easy, why is it not happening? Or could there be something deeper that's happening? I've even said the new story is the true story, right? And it's true. If you were to tell a new story and stick with it and say only that story, you would see it for sure. It would be a thing. I said that because I kind of stabilized. I was like, oh yeah, it's the simple as telling a new story. And then I started getting the comments and doing the one-on-ones like, hey, but like I'm getting pulled, like my mind's messing with me. I'm like, oh yeah, be aware of thought. I forgot about that part. I'm kind of stable. So I'm gonna make another video soon about the breakdown of the Bible between Neville and Eckhart. They perceive it differently, right? And why it may be easy, why it may seem like easier for someone like Neville to embody states, and why you think, and there's nothing wrong with you, okay? There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you at all. It's not that you're not God. It's just that you keep buying into thoughts. You keep thinking that you're your mind. And as long as you're doing this, you are not going to feel like God or consciousness, right? So that's why I introduced presence-based identity, because presence-based identity, okay, check it out. Without imagination, without presence is just mask, just identity. Just like identity without presence is just mask. Oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. Like I said before, hero and villain, they're two sides of the same coin, just masks, right? And presence without, intention or some type of imagination is just silence. I am. Now, I'm sure you want to do a little creating, things like that. And the mind is a great tool to have. But like Eckhart said, as long as you're identified with mind, you don't use it, it uses you. And I know that you know this, because can you stop it? Can you get out of it? Can you stick with your new story longer than X amount of time before you get pulled into this old story? And by the way, always a reminder here, it's not an old story if you're still telling it. If you're saying, oh my God, I got pulled into the old, no, that's current at that point. So to actually make these things old, you have to be aware of them and not make them relevant. This is why it's hard. Because you're not used to being observant of thought. Many things come with being observant of thought. You realize that you're not these masks. Hero, villain, good, bad. You realize that everything and its opposite are one, right? So it doesn't necessarily matter. But you come to a lot of different things, a lot of different realizations when you start becoming aware of thoughts. And one of them is that you're not these thoughts. And they're just stories, just narrative coming from an identity that really wants to stay consistent with how it sees itself. And that the reason that you have been having all this difficulty is because you keep thinking these thoughts are important and that they're true, but they're really just perceptions. And I promise you there's a trillion different perceptions. So how true is it? Okay. So when we when we introduce a more presence-based identity, which is like knowing this I am and kind of calling some shots and assuming from this position, then you're not getting rocked. And you can actually like call a shot or choose to experience something without getting identified with it. We're just choosing some experience and wanting to have an experience instead of thinking that you got it, like that it's who you are. Okay. So inner body awareness, as always, being aware of these thoughts when they're coming. Like when these stories are coming, you have to be. Don't worry about being persistent in a new story if you are still struggling with going back to an old story. Start there. Don't worry about persisting in the feeling of the wish fulfilled if you are still getting pulled and rocked by thoughts that, like from an old story, from a perception, or how you see this person, or oh my God, how's this gonna work out? If you're still getting rocked by thoughts, if you're still getting rocked by thoughts, don't even worry about that right now. I talk about this a lot on the Skool Community, I go real type of stability first, presence kind of first, because that's where you actually want to be operating from. Until then, you're just getting wherever the mind wants to take you, it's just gonna take you there. You're just gonna get all the thought trains, and then wonder why you ain't got no energy and why things aren't working, and oh man, how come I can't figure this out? Because you keep believing thought. So what you want to do is you want to be persistent in this. You want to be persistent in being aware, actually observing thought. And if it gets too much, then go straight into the inner body. Or you go straight to the inner body off the rip. Like you start finding yourself in a story. Coming from belief system, coming from this identity that's trying to stay consistent with how it sees itself. And if it doesn't feel chosen and it feels abandoned and it doesn't feel loved, it's going to be perceiving this way. And that's why you could just be right in the middle of your room, nothing happening, just kind of hanging out. And then you get a thought because your identity needs this little juice. Hey, so you're getting confident, starting to think things are different than what they are. Let me remind you how things actually are. Oh no, it really is like that. Oh my gosh, holy shit. Like he did say that, or she did say that, and they were like this, and this did happen, and mom, and then boom, we're caught again. That's why it's difficult. So you want to catch yourself in these stories when they start and go right to the inner body, or like just be aware of the thought, like, oh, that's just a thought. Focus on your breathing. Be persistent in breaking the pattern. Be persistent and not trying to view someone differently right now, because you can't. If you don't feel chosen, if you don't feel loved, if you feel abandoned, if you don't feel like you're worthy, you cannot see them differently. Not with that type of projection onto them. Not with that type of belief system perceiving things, because we're only seeing from belief system through the lens of how we see things in ourselves. So if we don't see ourselves as chosen and committed to, we are not going to think that they're going to commit to us. I know this. The idea is simple. Change the way you look at them, they change. Exactly. But like Neville said, there's no one to change but self. Now, Neville has a lot of teachings that, like, he didn't miss the point, but a lot of people that followed him did, for sure. So this isn't about them. You need to get out of these thought patterns. Because if you can get out of thought patterns, you weaken the belief system, and then you will naturally perceive this person differently, because you're no longer looking for proof of how you are abandoned. You're no longer looking for proof of how you are not committed to. You're no longer looking for proof of you not being enough. So you're going to stop seeing this proof, because that's all that's happening. Is identity wants proof of itself. It wants to stay consistent with how it sees itself. You be aware of that little fact, big fact, by the way, in this whole game. You be aware of that fact, and then don't buy into what's happening when it's happening, even when it's really hard. The reason it seems so hard is because it's got evidence, it's got story, got momentum, and there's not one person that you could call on your phone and tell them what's going on that wouldn't agree with you and be like, yeah, Kim, or girl, that's messed up. Why, you need to move on, or whatever the case may be. That's why it seems so real. But you have to break your connection to this real story, this perception. And when you do that, you're going to free yourself from this type of perception, because you won't have these beliefs anymore, because you're no longer watering them. And then you will naturally perceive this person and this thing and all these things differently, and you're gonna feel a lot more connected to it if you're present, and not coming up with a bunch of stories as to why you're not like already this thing and things like that. Nonetheless, that's why it's hard. That's why it's challenging. Even though the idea is simple, even though the recipe is simple, the mind's like, no, that's not how we do things. And if you're not used to not believing it, not just being aware of just thought in general, you'll get rocked, you'll believe it, and then you stay in these cycles. So be persistent in being aware, be persistent and not buying into thoughts, be persistent and go and returning to the inner body when you find yourself lost in story. Be persistent with making that your main focus for a little while until you stabilize and break yourself free from these ways, because until then, you are not going to receive this person or anything else differently, or yourself. No matter how much you tell yourself that you're God, or no matter how much someone told you online that you were, and all you gotta do is do this, because in a way, I guess all you have to do is change the way you look at things. But why haven't you? It's because of that. Okay, so be more. It's because of that fact that it's just trying to stay consistent with how it sees itself. It's nothing personal. It's all business, right? Nothing personal, even though it's personal. All right, I love you guys, and always return to the inner body, focus on the breath, and be aware of thought. Don't believe that shit. That's all you need to know forever. Okay. Adios, amigos. See you soon.